If there were a contender for the messiest love arc for main characters on Nickelodeon, I can't see how Jimmy and Cindy are not in that conversation, and after we visit these 10 episodes, you won't either. With a potential love triangle, another potential love triangle, and a questionable ending, I'm ready to both take this deadly seriously and not seriously at all. Let's have some fun.
Hey Jimmy, you know the only thing worse than you losing this relay race?
What's that, Vortex?
Losing to a girl!
So what exactly are Cindy and Jimmy? Are they friends, frenemies, enemies? Well, to answer that, I must bring you back to the 2000s and common writing tropes of kid shows at that time. You see, while there were certain romantic dynamics such as the main character liking someone who lived next door, the main character absolutely not liking said girl, the main character liking a girl, quote, out of their league, or the best friend who was just a friend until the finale or a big movie, there was another trope that kind of died out, one that you don't see anymore, probably for a good reason. It was the main character, typically a boy who argued with a girl he liked at the time, but truly liked her and didn't know how to express it in any other way in fear of social judgment. One of the early major episodes that truly explored this aspect is Trading Faces, a body swap episode I spoke about in my body swap video, where Jimmy and Cindy swap bodies and the first thing they think to do is sabotage each other.
Look at me, everybody! I sure am smart! Admire my big show-offy brain!
Hey, everybody, look at my ankles. When will I get a pair of pants the right length? Who knows?
When watching this episode, you may think that they don't like each other at all, especially considering that Cindy, when in her body, planned a prank to get at Jimmy, which backfired on her when she became Jimmy. However, as a person who lived through the 2000s, I am here to tell you that not only do they like each other, but the fact that they're so intense about trying to show how much they don't like each other is one of the biggest reasons why they do. And you may ask, if they both like each other, why not skip all this posturing and simply just go out with each other?
Cindy, what happened last night? You said something about an extra concert ticket and then the line went dead.
I wouldn't go to a concert with you if you were the last boy on Earth!
That's how stuck up I am.
Nick! She doesn't mean that!
Because, my dear viewer, there is a social contract that everyone has, and that Jimmy is not cool. So dating him is not cool, and by opposition, Nick is everything Jimmy is not, and is cool. So dating Nick, in this context, would be cool to them. And you want to be cool.
And I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool.
For context, Cindy, before having her body swapped, was nervously trying to ask out Nick on a date. Now, I can understand watching The Loud House, for example, and seeing Lincoln try all of this type of toxic behavior and getting shut down pretty quick. It is, by any metric, not a healthy dynamic that they have, but if we're answering the question, they are frenemies out of insecurity. While they sabotage each other's lives, it's purely reactionary and performative. And at the end of this episode, you'll see it for yourself. To get back into their bodies, Jimmy and Cindy's body has an idea.
While our bodies are lying useless, we get the most trustworthy people we know to sort our respective memories and abilities into the correct heads.
Some have theorized that part of what brings Cindy and Jimmy together is that there's a scene where Carl, Libby, and Sheen are organizing their thoughts and skills, and there's a long-winded one about disliking girls who dislike boys, who dislike girls, who dislike show-offy boys, and it goes on and on and on. That gets deleted, and it is that mental blockage that perhaps set the pieces for them to be together. And it's not the worst theory. Again, the way they act is largely performative, and we'd see how at the end of this episode.
When our brains were floating inside that thing together, which was disgusting, by the way, one of us was imagining us walking down a country lane holding hands and, kissing.
Okay, I remember that. But it wasn't my brain thinking it.
Well, it sure as heck wasn't mine.
Yeah, it must have been yours.
Neither wants to give the other power. Neither wants to be the first person to admit feelings because they feel like the other person is going to reject them. It is the big struggle that they go through throughout the show, throughout the 3 seasons. And funnily enough, as unhealthy as this dynamic is, it had a byproduct of producing one of the most wholesome dynamics in the show.
I give you pheromone number 976/J. It's the chemical hormone that makes boys like girls. One whiff of this stuff will make a guy fall in love with the first girl he sees.
You madman! What have you done?
This is Love Potion 9.76/J, an episode that, while gave us a lot of development to Libby and Sheen's dynamic, which is very wholesome, also gave us a lot of clarity with Jimmy and Cindy as well, and this pheromone that was created to combat the lovey-dovey feelings that come with Valentine's Day. Carl inadvertently exposes said pheromone, which makes all of them more vulnerable. Jimmy would go on to be more openly flirty with Cindy, Sheen would pursue Libby, and Carl, he would have an interest in Jimmy's mom, Judy Neutron. Now look, I spoke about that when I spoke about age gap crushes, so you can see what happened with Carl in that video, because we're gonna focus on Jimmy and Cindy here. There's two big points this episode gives us. The former speaks to Cindy's perception of what a good Valentine would be, and the latter exposes Jimmy's perception of what a good Valentine can't be. Let's talk about the former.
What's your idea of the perfect Valentine?
Well, if you really want to know. He'll comply with my every demand. My Valentine will know who's in command.
For Cindy, a good Valentine is a boy who's 100% subservient to her needs. We both know that isn't Jimmy, and for even extra points, part of how Jimmy even convinced Carl and Sheen to take the antidote he planned to make to completely get rid of the feelings of liking girls at all was pointing to another kid in class who was acting subservient to his Valentine. Jimmy, under the spell of this love potion, would ask out Cindy in front of everyone, which embarrasses both of them. Her, because of how over the top and loud it was, and him, because it wasn't really in his control. And I want to know how their dynamic is underneath this spell. Jimmy is quite nervous, and Cindy is very standoffish.
I made this for you.
Thanks?
Cindy, will you be my Val?
Your Val?
It is here where Jimmy learns that all of this has been outside of his control. The episode makes it clear that there's two sides that are fighting against each other. His natural knee-jerk reaction to taunt Cindy, and the pheromone's intended effect of making him swoon over her. He learns that the love potion was accidentally leaked into the lab, and deduces that he doesn't truly feel this way, which is kinda true. The way he words it, though, leaves a lot to ponder about.
Do you want to be my Valentine or don't you? Hey! What's going on? Stop it!
I'm sorry! I love you, but I'm supposed to hate you!
You are so gay!
Is he, quote, supposed to hate Cindy because that's how he feels, or is he, quote, supposed to hate Cindy because of something greater? We'll get around to answering that very soon, but just know that they're back to being adversarial with each other, which makes Libby and Sheen's continual admiration for each other stand stronger. So you've seen Cindy adversarial in Trading Faces, and nervous in Love Potion 9.76/J, but how about Cindy having both of those feelings together? In one of the specials of the show, Win, Lose, and Kaboom, we see things soften up slightly, but there's still signs of friction.
Cindy, when I suggested that we try to be friends, I didn't mean you should draw up contracts.
But this makes it so much cleaner. It simply says that while you may be a genius, I wipe the floor with you in things like people skills and taekwondo.
He's very apprehensive to sign the contract, but does want to become friendlier with Cindy, a notion that with the next episode is gonna blow up in his face, by the way. But this special revolves around decoding this mysterious alien space rock that, when answered, forcefully signs them up for a game show or their planet gets destroyed. Focusing specifically on the Jimmy and Cindy dynamic, she's very dismissive of his ideas, such as wanting to use the space rock as a tourist attraction or letting the military have it, and doesn't hold back on Jimmy for going against these wishes and getting them into this mess to begin with. Jimmy becomes more hard-headed, such as in the first challenge of the game show, where it's a team game and they're clearly outnumbering the alien team. Jimmy decides to play solo because of his knowledge of Euclidean geometry, which is like the dumbest thing ever, by the way. Cindy tries to help, and whether it was because of ego or her being dismissive of him earlier, he is a large factor in them losing the first challenge, which again, I must remind you, if they lose the whole game, the Earth blows up. He also flubs the second challenge in the same way because he goes in with his idea, not consulting his friends at all.
Your grandstanding is gonna get the entire Earth destroyed!
Look, if you guys think you can do a better job, then just say so!
We think we can do a better job!
However, we get into this messy territory when we meet someone whom Cindy isn't going to like very much. This is April, who's willing to rebel against the game hosts with the other aliens so long as she gets the trust of humans.
What is your answer? Will you help me?
I'd rather go down fighting. Count me in!
I knew you would not disappoint me.
You kissed me.
I simply pledged loyalty to you with the Gorlock seal of trust.
I knew there was something funny going on between you two.
No, Sydney, no! It was a simple trust ritual.
Oh, like I didn't just see you swapping alien spit. Not that I care.
Look, not gonna lie, even though the drama at this point is fun to watch, this feels so fan-fiction-y. An alien race that locks lips to trust? Cindy is understandably jealous, fueled by the fighting that they've done up to this point and the jealousy that she has in the situation, which leads to April and her fighting over Jimmy. As the special goes on, Jimmy does learn to be more cooperative, and things with April transition from curiosity to bonding over not wanting their planets to be destroyed, which is fair. So even when Jimmy and friends inevitably win the competition, with Hugh's help, Jimmy feels compelled to come back and save April and the other aliens from destruction, which is a good thing, but not totally a good way of dealing with everything, depending on who you ask.
I will prove myself worthy of your trust, Jimmy Neutron.
Was that the Gorlock seal of trust?
No, that was a kiss.
Cindy would be jealous, of course, despite them being on a quite rocky-ish territory in this special, and cut their conversation short. Even after things go back to normal on Earth, for the most part, Cindy and Jimmy revisit that friendship contract, and Cindy even asks how to perform that Gorlock seal of trust, but things get interrupted when April sends a status update from her end, and Cindy storms off. It may seem unfair that Cindy is having to fight for Jimmy's attention, but there's another special where things go the exact opposite way.
Oh my gosh! I was so busy decorating I forgot to get a date for the dance! No girl in the universe would date me!
Wait a minute. Girl in this universe.
This is the second Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, which starts with Jimmy and Timmy planning their own separate Friday the 13th dances, and each of them not having a date. While Jimmy has home court advantage, so to speak, he'd rather save the day from Professor Calamitous before asking Cindy out or allowing Cindy to ask him out. Timmy, on the other hand, upon remembering who Cindy is, plans to meet up and ask her immediately.
So, here goes. Cindy, would you like to...
Wait! Cindy, before you say anything, there's something you have to know about Timmy.
Back off, Fudgehead. You're cramping my style.
Sorry, Timmy, but somebody's gotta tell her you're not a genius!
This special is interesting to me in so many ways. While Timmy most definitely isn't a genius, Cindy isn't just attracted to geniuses, given that she had a crush on Nick, who doesn't present that way. Jimmy now gets to experience what Cindy did, in having to fight for someone's attention, and being on a losing effort. For one, in the previous Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, as shown before, Cindy already likes Timmy, and finds the gesture of traveling dimensions just to see her in this special flattering. The movie revolves around Professor Calamitous and Anti-Cosmo quote-unquote teaming up to run amok between their dimensions. The former, Calamitous, is used to help release the Anti-Fairies, and the latter, Anti-Cosmo, is using the Anti-Fairies to keep it perpetually Friday the 13th so that they can, I guess, get off on people having bad luck? Throughout the special, Timmy is shown trying to ask Cindy to the dance, with Libby, Carl, and Sheen getting in the way, and Jimmy ultimately stepping in between them.
Ready, Cindy?
Ready, Timmy.
Cue the swans!
Wait! Huh? Neutron, you are here!
As their squabbles get put aside to save both their worlds, especially when Timmy inadvertently fuses Jorgen with Professor Calamitous, which creates a bigger issue, there are a few things to mention here. For one, Cindy enjoys the dynamic that she's created between the two fighting over her. It's quite rare for her to be fought over in this way by Jimmy. Secondly, again, Timmy isn't a genius, but Jimmy doesn't really have a way to answer how Timmy acquired what Jimmy thinks to be complex computer programs and travel across dimensions. And even if he did learn who Cosmo and Wanda are and the whole fairy thing, they'd be relinquished from Timmy if he exposed that secret, so that wasn't going to happen. He's primarily doing this out of jealousy, but I would have been curious how he was going to explain all of this. And lastly, it's really rare in this special, but I do enjoy the small pockets in which they both work together and vibed. Obviously, they had a goal that they both wanted to pursue, so it makes sense, but it was short-lived. Obviously, they'd stop the Anti-Fairies and separate Jorgen from Calamitous, but there's a bigger question here.
Okay, so blah, 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 blah. The universe is saved. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to get my groove on, so listen up. Who are you going to the dance with, girl?
Given that Timmy wasn't able to stop the big bomb that Calamitous using Jorgen's powers was able to spawn, Cindy learns that Timmy is not a genius, but he is considerate enough to entertain her and give her his attention, something that Jimmy doesn't often do. Cindy does appreciate Jimmy's genius intellect, especially given that earlier within the special, she resented that she was never allowed in Jimmy's lab casually, so she wanted to see Timmy's lab. Or should I say labs. All is well when a compromise is reached and she's both of their dates, clearly liking them both still. But you may ask, with all of this fighting back and forth, do they ever get close to explaining their feelings? Well, yes. But why skip there when we can have more toxicity? Within season 3, we get the N-Men, an episode that turns their arguments up to 11. Apparently, Jimmy took his friends to golf on Mercury, which quite the feat, by the way, and on the way back, someone can't show genuine appreciation.
Ha! Neutron probably thought the low gravity would throw off my backswing. Wrong, as usual.
Hey, how about instead of bragging, you thank me for inviting you along at all?
You're right, Jimmy. Thank you for letting me kick your butt on the back nine.
The reason this episode is called the N-Men, for people who don't know, is because in the midst of flying through the Van Patten radiation belt, they all get superpowers relative to the actions or emotions they had at the time. Libby applying Vanishing Cream gave her invisibility amongst other powers. Sheen shaking in his chair gave him the ability of super speed. Carl getting gassy in the presence of another Jimmy and Cindy argument gave him very powerful belches. Cindy would get super strength amongst other things when arm wrestling Jimmy, and Jimmy would seemingly get the ability to turn orange, which becomes a sore spot between him and his friends.
You all got superpowers based on what you were doing when the Van Patten rays hit.
And you just turned orange? How lame is that?
I want to add, the reason why they're arm wrestling to begin with is because Cindy said that she smokes Jimmy in athletics, which is true. Cindy actively practices martial arts and won twice in a foot race against Jimmy within the episode See Jimmy Run. So I think this is 100% ego on Jimmy's end to even try and go up against Cindy, knowing that he's not the most athletic kid. Well, in many episodes, it appeared that Jimmy and Cindy bicker a lot with each other in equal amount though. Cindy seems to get on Jimmy's case a lot more than usual, which causes him repeatedly in this episode to ask her to stop.
Listen, William of Orange, I've had enough of this wee business. You know what your power is? Super irritation.
I'm warning you for the last time, Vortex. Quit riding me!
This isn't to say that Jimmy isn't equally as annoying at times, but not in this episode. Outside of the athletics argument, this episode he was 100% reasonable, and all of his friends were shady. Just look at how Cindy and the rest of them get contained in this tank to be locked away, and when Jimmy asks to be taken as well, his friends who are locked away and need his help laugh at him. They're laughing at the guy they wanted saving from. This is the last straw, and from this moment, we get a very different Jimmy.
Now I'll never find a cure in time! Why do I even care? All they did was mock me, especially Cindy. She makes me so angry!
From this point, Jimmy becomes an aggressive monster who has infrequent moments of self-reflection that doesn't last long when he's being attacked. Jimmy's design reminds me of that one superhero. What was he called? Something like something? I forgot the thing I used to remember his name. What was the thing? Anyway, point is, when confronting Cindy, she has the ability to be nice and calm him down, given that she was a big catalyst for his rage. It also doesn't help that using their superpowers is literally draining the life forces from all of them, so they need to stop before they all fizzle away. It also doesn't help that Cindy decides it's better to fight, which goes well until it doesn't. After Carl gives it everything he has, Jimmy is still ready to fight, while the rest of them learn in real time that they can't keep this up because their bodies are literally breaking down. With no other options left, Cindy finally makes it apparent to be nice and ends up saying something quite important.
I know I'm always mean to you, but I do it so you won't notice my real feelings. The truth is, well, I sorta secretly
It's just enough of a tease to give you something, not much, but at least you can see she's self-aware. In fact, just a few episodes after this, we get to what was one of the most notable episodes of not just the show, but the dynamic itself. Since I've spoken about Stranded far earlier than this video, we'll stick to the bullet points here. Basically, the premise is that they argue, they tip off Jimmy's hovercraft, and are forced to be stranded on an island together. At first, they're quite standoffish about it.
Of all the people to to be stranded on a desert island with, I end up with you.
Well, you wouldn't exactly crack my top 10. I'd rather be stranded with Attila the Hun.
Well, I'd rather be stranded with Crazy Louie the Vagrant. At least he could use his good tooth to open coconuts.
However, there is a reason why this episode gets highlighted so much, and it's because of what happens later on in the episode, where Cindy and Jimmy are forced to stick together if they actually want to survive. Not only this, but this episode continues from where the Endmen left off by addressing the fact that while they may have some grievances with each other, a lot of their dynamic involves masking how they really feel because of insecurity and judgment from others.
Jimmy, why do you think we always fight back home? I mean, I know I'm not supposed to like you, but being here on this island, away from school and grades and peer pressure, it makes me realize how ridiculous that is. You're a really cool person.
Like within the Love Potion episode, Cindy echoes what Jimmy said in saying, quote, "I'm not supposed to like you," rather than simply saying, "I don't like you," which implies that she doesn't necessarily feel how she's supposed to feel, similar to what he said in that circumstance. Ironically, while there, you can make the argument that the Love Potion definitely did heavy lifting. Deep down, he kind of already had those feelings and worked hard on not showing them. If you're looking for any fan service towards this dynamic, it's really within this episode. I mean, this man went around pretty much to love a Patty style, ripping clams open to gift her. W gift, but all good things must come to an end, and that happens when the others manage to find them. While Cindy initially didn't want to go, enjoying the break from her normal life, Jimmy decides it's best to go, and so does their dynamic. Kind of.
Australia is a country.
You're wrong, Neutron. Australia is a continent.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
To the hover car?
Right behind ya.
Now that you know about Cindy, we can really get into the weeds of this dynamic, because there's another character I haven't acknowledged yet, and it starts with Party at Neutron's, where Jimmy's parents are going out and want him to be good, do no crazy experiments, or throw any parties. And normally he'd follow these rules, but let's just say Jimmy would be convinced to at least consider a party.
Think of the fun, the laughs, the memories.
Think of the high-calorie snacks and sugar-laden soda. And maybe Betty Quinlan would come, Jimmy.
Betty Quinlan?
You see, Jimmy, noted logic brain kind of arrogant young boy who doesn't like parties, is now gonna throw a party because Betty may come over. While Carl and Sheen spearhead inviting people, it appears that none of them thought of what people would do at said party, which ends up becoming a problem when the guests get their hands on Jimmy's inventions. While in this episode, Jimmy noted how lonely it could be in his pursuit of science, let it be known that he kind of didn't want to throw a party and gets quite upset at the mess that everyone is making. It is at this moment where he reaches his breaking point, but also when Betty comes over.
This party is over. Everybody out.
Hey, Jimmy.
Betty Quinlan?
Who invited Miss I'm So Beautiful and Perfect?
And just like that, despite Sheen bringing a velociraptor to the party, Carl being shrunk down, and Livy potentially illegally streaming a live feed of a concert, Jimmy lets the party go on. You'll also notice that Cindy already has a relationship with Betty. She doesn't really like her. Betty would ask Jimmy to dance, something that Jimmy didn't expect to happen.
Why would anyone want to dance with Nerdtron? I wouldn't dance with him if he were the last kid on Earth.
Me thinks the lady does protest too much.
You know, Cindy, I understand you feel it's crazy that anyone would dance with Jimmy. I think it's crazy that Libby straight up teleported in the midst of dancing and no one acknowledged it. How is she both here and here at the same time that Betty and Jimmy are dancing? Now you may ask, if Cindy isn't the one dancing with Jimmy, then why does it matter that anyone else is dancing with them? And just like that, you get a nice big batch of jealousy. So you may wonder, is Cindy and Betty finally gonna talk about this? Well, not in this next episode. They will get into a big fight where the secret is blown out into plain sight, and that episode is very messy, but we're not gonna talk about that episode just yet because it's showbiz time.
So what part are you gonna try out for, Jim?
I'm not. School plays are just excuses for kids to get up and make fools of themselves. Macbeth in space? It sounds silly, ridiculous, and the most beautiful thing in the world.
You see, Jimmy, noted logic brain kind of arrogant young boy who also doesn't like plays, is now interested in Macbeth. Kind of like how Jimmy, noted logic brain kind of arrogant young boy who doesn't like parties, threw a party over a girl. There's just one problem though.
Whoa! Is this a laser sword I see before me?
If he was casting for a jock surfer dude who landed on an alien planet, this would be great acting. Unfortunately, that's not the role he's supposed to be going for. So you may ask, what exactly is the point of this play, and why does Jimmy need to have the leading role? Well, you see, one of the big scenes in the play involves a kissing scene with the leading man and leading lady. And we'll get to that scene when it comes because I have some questions. Throughout the auditions for the play, Willoughby automatically grants people roles before letting every kid try out for the role they want.
Will all the great oceans of Mars wash this space creature's mucus clean from my hand? Lady Macbeth!
Ladies and gentlemen, we have found our Macbeth!
He'd also do this with Betty and instantly cast her as Lady Macbeth. Now, his clear bias towards the kids he likes is quite funny, but do you remember what I said earlier? Well, you see, one of the big scenes in the play involves a kissing scene with the leading man and leading lady. And we'll get to that scene when it comes because I have some questions. Yeah, wouldn't it be crazy if he was like very invested in seeing these two kiss? Like, what if he was so invested he was shouting stage commands, being like a few feet away from them about to kiss?
Kiss me, my queen of the galaxy.
Kiss me, my king of the stars.
Now, go in for the big kiss. Really plant that sucker!
My guy, relax. I'm sure you want the play to be as good as it can be, but can you like step a few feet away and chill? Jimmy, who obviously didn't get the role of Macbeth, would try to sabotage their kiss, not being able to stomach the sight. And Cindy would say something quite interesting.
Sorry, Nick, won't happen again.
I'm wise to you, Neutron. You did that on purpose.
Accidents happen.
The dirty truth is that it takes someone petty and vindictive to see when someone else is being petty and vindictive. She isn't necessarily defending Nick either, which makes her crush on him either secondary or inconsistent. But since we're speaking about Nick, we must talk about what happens to him shortly before the play.
Hey, here comes Nick on his skateboard going really fast and doing some extremely dangerous tricks that could cause him to...
Oh, dude! Oh, man, I broke my leg.
I know some people are gonna bring up that in context, Carl would speak about how saying the word Macbeth brings bad luck, but two things. One, that happens after Nick breaks his leg, and two, even if no one said Macbeth, what is this maniac doing just spinning in the middle of the street? I love Tony Hawk Underground as much as the next guy, but there had to have been better ways to get this combo off. With this, Jimmy is now playing the role of Macbeth, despite not initially being casted because his acting sucks. The play itself is quite typical for a Jimmy Neutron adventure, but there are two highlights. One, Jimmy does try to rationalize not liking girls.
See you on stage, Jimmy. I mean, Macbeth.
Hey, Jimmy, I thought we agreed that we didn't like girls.
We don't. Betty is a woman.
Whoa, Jimmy, you do not want to be like Timmy and Carly. Trust me, you do not want to be like Timmy and Carly. Two, after the play, he does get his kiss.
Too bad we didn't get to do our big scene. But I guess I can still give you a kiss for saving our lives.
I love show business.
And it loves us, Jimmy. This was truly the most fabulous and magical night.
Oh my God, can you just relax? Let these kids be kids. He was there the whole time. Admittedly, throughout this adventure, while Betty is built up to be the prime attraction for Jimmy, as well as all of these boys on the sidelines, the interesting aspect is that she doesn't really do that much. Not to be mean, it's just she doesn't really have any strong beliefs or take any meaningful steps towards or away from Jimmy and their dynamic. She's just there. So we don't really get to see how Cindy and Betty feel about each other in this episode, but how about this next one?
So, what were you doing at Betty Quinlan's house again?
I told you nothing.
So why were you going there?
Why are you cross-examining me?
Oh, so you admit you had a reason.
Now it's time to see how Betty and Cindy actually feel about each other in the episode Vanishing Act. Jimmy, noted logic brain, kind of arrogant young boy who doesn't like magic, has turned around and started to believe in magic over a girl. Kind of like how Jimmy, noted logic brain, kind of arrogant young boy who didn't like plays, wanted to act in a school play because of a girl. But it doesn't end there. He starts this performance with a reserved front seat and rows for Betty, and reserves far too much blatant attention to her in his opening lines.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Betty, I will now present a feat of magic so amazing that all of you, but especially Betty,
Give me a break.
will be rendered speechless with awe.
And listen, I've been in friend groups too, where I just wanted to say, bro, just ask her out at this point. I know, we all know, she knows too. So while Cindy is visibly annoyed because she likes Jimmy and is jealous of what he sees in Betty, there's also this element where it's like, he's dragged out this affection for so long, this is season 3 by the way, that every single person he knows just wants him to just get on with it, including Sheen.
I shall need a volunteer. Who shall I pick?
Just pick Betty and get it over with.
So that makes Carl, Goddard earlier in this episode, Cindy, and now Sheen. And the only reason Libby doesn't say much is because she genuinely doesn't care and knows that Cindy liking Jimmy is just as much of an open secret. But you know, I can understand having the school in the palm of your hand as you perform a magic show as a large guise to impress a girl you like. You know what I don't understand?
Magic, huh? This should ruin Nerdtron's magic career and his chances with Betty.
So let's pause for a second here. For context, earlier in this episode, Jimmy orders a magic kit that broke, and he decides to fix it back up. So why did he feel the need to add a knob on the back of it? What on God's three-dimensional Earth was he planning to do that needed an indicator of crazy? Listen, we don't know what's at the bottom of the ocean, and we don't know what Jimmy's future plans with this machine are going to be. Especially since the machine explodes, we don't see it again, and in its place is this portal. So to be clear, two things can be true here. Jimmy is undoubtedly at this point simping heavily for Betty, but this whole situation today is Cindy's fault, 100%. Throughout all of the adventures you've seen up to this point, now it gets to a boiling point where they realize something needs to be said and no one has said it up to this point.
We aren't lab rats and this isn't one of your lame experiments.
Back off, Cindy. He's trying to get us out of here. And if anyone can do it, he can.
Okay, I've had it, Miss Hot Pants. This is all your fault.
Finally, we get the big blow up that everyone's been waiting on. And could you say it's fair to call out how Betty hasn't done anything with Jimmy's blatant crush on her? I wouldn't say so. I don't think that's the right call to make here. And that's not even me conforming the gender roles of the guy needing to ask the girl out. I'm way more progressive than that. Whoever has a crush should be the initiator. Any gender.
Look, I know all about the whole you and Neutron thing.
Thing? What thing? There is no thing. We don't have a thing.
Yeah, right. Just relax and keep out of my face. He's all yours.
And from this point on, Betty doesn't get in the way of Cindy and Jimmy, and it's clear what Cindy's true intent is. However, to burst the bubble, the relationship between Betty and Jimmy wouldn't have really worked out. It's essentially just a nicer variant of Timmy and Trixie. I've talked about how that dynamic didn't work in these videos here, but it has the same underlying issue that one of them is literally worshiping the other and doesn't care about anything but their looks, which for characters as young as Jimmy and Timmy is a normal thing because they're kids. Fortunately, for a show that was about to end, they managed to sneak in what truly happened with Cindy and Jimmy. You see this within the episode Lady Sings the News, a Libby-centric episode that doesn't necessarily focus on the dynamic, but has some important scenes that tie all of this up. She's working as a gossip columnist on a new show alongside her friends, but decides to leak the gossip that she knows about her actual friends, and the column becomes a massive success. Why? For gossip such as,
well, it seems a certain big-headed genius has been playing footsie in the library with a blonde colleague. Looks like this love-hate relationship is turning into all love all the time.
At this point in the show, Cindy and Jimmy don't deny their feelings, as they both share in being upset that Libby is outing that their frenemy stance was soft-launched into being a relationship. However, I've saved what you can consider their best moment for last. You see, in order to get Libby to stop gossiping, they plan to plant a story that's so absurd that no one would believe it, such as Carl being an alien slave to conduct malicious acts towards Retroville. Unfortunately, because she's been relatively truthful up to this point, they believe her and nearly take out Carl in the process. But when everything is settled, we get one last scene of these two together, as far as this video goes.
I guess things worked out okay after all. Come on, let's go home.
Hello, guys? Wait up! Okay, you're coming back, right?
and it's pretty much confirmed that after all the fighting, they managed to put their differences aside, seeing how much they have in common, to work together and at least try dating for a change. Unfortunately, this is also the last episode to explore their dynamic as far as the airing order goes, so who knows what we would have gotten if there was a 4th season. I truly enjoy their messy love arc. As toxic as it is, it was entertaining to watch, and most importantly, it was juxtaposed against a calmer, more understanding couple, and if you want to hear about them, you should check out this video here.